Hello, it's me from the future. For whatever reason, I couldn't figure out why OBS dropped Carp's audio for the very beginning of the video. So our general consensus on Reinhardt and Diva was that with Reinhardt, unless he's in a comp that's kind of like made for him, like everybody's kind of like all in with the Reinhardt having like higher end support, and in a rush comp with like Baptiste Lucio, Sim May, like rush comp, that he really struggles, and a lot of the DPS we find strong right now do really, really, really well against him. And he doesn't really have any favorable matchups other than like maybe into Zarya, but Zarya is also just kind of really strong anyways. And with Diva, with the meta being very dive orientated right now, and she's just a very well-rounded character, very mobile, doesn't really have any bad maps. Defense matrix is really good. And again, with Bastion being very strong and existing a lot of other high damage characters that aren't beamers, she does really well at, well, using defense matrix to negate the damage. So she's a very strong pick. That's fair. They have. This is where I put this man right here. That's yep.
Probably B for me, just because Ana anti-nade exists. You know,
Fair, but I feel like after his rework, it doesn't hurt him as bad anymore. Because I guess it still hurts him, but because like
it's
before you
still,
had to run a
yeah.
Kiri with him, but now he can just stop it and then use it as soon as it's done. Like it's still disabling one of his
Well, in a
abilities.
coordinated team, if you call out the hog is anti, you will all in on that hog and they will explode.
That
Like that's
that's very
still
fair.
just how it
That's
works.
fair. But with I feel like his poke's better now, and between his trap and his hook, I feel like I mean they basically brought his one shot combo back. So
I do agree. I do think he is better than he was before the rework. The rework was definitely a buff for him, but Ana can still just wipe him.
also, I'm thinking about a couple other characters that I'd put up here probably when we get and talk about them. And the more I think
Hmm.
about it, the more I kind of agree with you with putting Hog in B, because I feel like a lot of the characters up here right now do well into Hog. And that's
Yeah,
just the way it is. So, all right, Winton.
Winton.
I love the funny monkey. I love the
I am
funny
a huge
monkey.
funny monkey enjoyer.
But I feel like there are certain characters here that he still does really not good against, and I feel like the recent buff to him did him wonders. Like before I'd put him here. I could be persuaded into this, but without your opinion, I'd
Mm,
probably put him here.
I would say monkey is a solid A.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree that he does have a lot of really
A lot
good
of
counters that are
problems.
good right now.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
example, Bastion,
Reaper
but
is a well-known one.
Reaper is does very well into Winston, but he's not super
Tobiern.
great right now.
Tobiern
But
does good against him too.
Torbjorn does good against Winston, yeah.
Yep. But Winton got the buff, but also Tobiern got a buff also, so
Yeah, but a good Winston can play around the Reaper, around the Bastion,
that's fair.
and I think the buff especially helps him against really like bad matchups for him, like Brigitte, which was
That's
like
very true. He did
kind of a hard Winston counter before.
Bastion even helps get through his armor now, so all he has going for
Yeah,
him is Ironclad. I agree.
exactly.
And like tanks like Orisa,
And
uh,
with Ironclad, you aren't really engaging the Bastion when he's in turret form
right,
anyways.
true,
So
exactly. If you are, you're probably probably doing something wrong anyway.
yeah.
All right, so Zarya, no, I wish.
I wish.
I don't like playing Zarya, man. I mean, like, if you enjoy playing Zarya, it is what it is, but I hate playing against her. I just don't find it fun. And I hate to put her here, but I think that's where she belongs, right there. Uh,
um
because I feel like that there are some characters, like Winston. Winston's pretty good right now. I could be persuaded to put her here because of that. Like Winston
yeah.
and Reinhardt and sort of Sigma, I guess, or like the tanks that kind of do well against her. But like I feel like there's a lot of just I don't want to call them brain dead comps, but just like walk forward and hold down the trigger comps
Right.
that she does very, very well in. So, and I feel like there isn't, I mean, even the characters that do well against her don't necessarily completely shut her down. Like, she still has her bubbles, she
Yeah.
has cleanse, and like we were
Yeah, she does not
talking,
have any like hard counters.
exactly. And
Like the
any
closest you're gonna get is Reinhardt, and well,
Reinhardt's down here.
Reinhardt's kinda
The
yeah.
more we talk about it, the more I want to put her up here. Where would you put her?
Um, oh,
It's a
I'd say yeah, either low A or high B, just
low
somewhere
A
in
or
the
high
middle
B.
there.
Okay, we'll put her low A for now because I feel like she's definitely better than Hog.
I'd say she's definitely a you can definitely hard carry your way through like the lower metal ranks,
That is
right?
true.
With her.
Yeah, because everybody's just hitting your bubble and you just full beam.
Yep.
Bzzz, angry bee.
Yep.
Yep. All right. The horse, Orisa. Um,
I'm gonna say I don't think Arissa's very good right now.
I don't think she's very good right now either. I feel like she does. I mean, I feel like she's just Zarya but worse right now. What I mean by that is I also feel like Orisa plays in a lot of the just like walk forward comps, like just all in walk forward brawl comps. But I feel like Zarya just
Oh,
does her own job better, and she struggles into Zarya.
interesting.
And I feel like she struggles now with the recent buffs to two of our main dive tanks. I feel like she can't really. I mean, Winston does better against her now because she's like the bully tank, right? She walks into the tank, she can kind of like shut them down. She has her javelin, her spinny spear, her gold.
Yeah.
But I feel like all of these tanks are being kind of touched and raised up around her. The tanks that she does well against into bullying like Hog and
Yes.
whatnot. Like she struggles against Hog now. She can't just javelin Hog out of his
I said
heal. He
that's
can
kind of why
just
I
still
want to put
heal.
her like lower into like C
Oh
maybe,
really?
just because. Well, just looking at all the like characters who are higher, they all do pretty well into Orisa. Like Diva, Winston, Zarya, they all do pretty well into an Orisa like matchup. Hog is the only exception, but with the rework, you can't cancel his self heal with Javelin anymore
Sure,
because he just gets it right back, which is
true.
like one of the bigger reasons why you chose Orisa into the Hog matchup.
True. And like spinning spear will still and gold will still stop hook, but I mean just don't hook the Orisa.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, most of the time you're not. That's not what you're trying to do anyway. So, yeah, I just feel like she can't bully him anywhere near as much as well. And after the way his left click has been reworked, plus he has the trap now, so she just runs out of it. You
Mhm.
just throw the trap in the way. Like I feel like this matchup has been swayed a lot more. I don't think necessarily Hog's just straight up a good option into Orisa necessarily, but there's not really a counter there anymore. I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So, all right, cool. I will agree with her in C tier. I never really thought of her being like this, like here. Like I never, that never like, because I'm so used to her being like here or here. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
from the
Like
past
she's
few
always
seasons, or
here. And but yeah, you know what?
no, a bunch of tanks around her have been getting buffed and raised just up above her a bit more.
Er,
Like the Winston buff to do like to ignore the armor,
true.
that is very good into Orisa.
Yeah, exactly. She has a lot of armor. She has a
Yeah.
lot of armor. She gets over. Yeah, I agree. All right, this might be my biases kicking in, but how do you feel about that?
um,
Because I'm thinking like the diamond tier of play and like up, like these characters played at their like peak potential, like doing very very well, like not like the best of the best players, but very skilled players. More realistically, I'd
if
probably put him there.
if I would say if we are talking like the top of the top, like the Winston like absolute like one tricks like Zebra
Mm-hmm.
waked,
Right, right,
I
right,
would agree with S. But
right.
not everyone has that
Yeah,
level
right.
of
The
skill with
the
that character.
average really good Doomfist player, I'd say
I would say normally I would have said lower just because a lot of people don't really know how to play
A.
Doomfist.
Uh huh.
but Overwatch 2 has been out for like a year. People are learning like more and more, and I'm
Yep.
seeing that as I play, just more Doomfist players just popping up and being able to actually play the character.
Yep. And I feel like
So I would be content putting him in A because of that.
because of his recent buff, I guess. I almost wanted to call it a rework to his ult. Where like, I mean, a
Hmm.
lot of people talk about how like if you look at the
Yeah.
tank alts, his ult really didn't do much. But now his tank alt not only gives him his cooldowns back,
Now I'd
but
argue it's one of the better tank
exactly
ults.
because he can just all in without fear, full heal, and do it again. Then he gets
Yeah,
overhealth the whole time, gets all of his cooldowns back. Like I mean, I just feel like it's very good.
it is.
It's like an alt designed to be an ego alt, except it doesn't actually lose value for ego alting.
True.
In fact, it almost rewards ego alting, which is very funny to me. Um.
Yeah, no, I'm happy putting Doomfist in A there.
All right. Cool. 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 I'll agree with you. Um. Ball.
Oh,
Uh.
I'm gonna say it.
Uh.
Might be our first F.
Really? I wasn't gonna do him
Oh.
that dirty, but honestly, looking at everybody we have ranked here, I mean, name one of these tanks you want to play ball into.
Yeah,
I,
not just like tank matchups, but supports are crazy strong
yeah,
still. I know that they did a couple nerfs, but they're still
I feel like
very
ball. I feel
good.
like a really, really good again, but we're not talking about just the one tricks that just like make are like gods with their characters, just a very high tiers
Well,
of play.
even still, like
I
that's the
yeah, I
thing.
still
Even
think
the one
like
tricks
a
on ball
one
are struggling.
trick Doomfist or a one trick Winton like your Bogers and your Zebras like you were talking about before, I feel like they're just gonna bully ball.
Yeah,
I feel like that they're just what's ball have that they don't, you know? I feel like he's more annoying maybe, but
I
I feel like if you look at all the tanks right now, I would say ball has the worst ult as well. I feel like he
I would
just gets
agree.
the least
Yeah,
value. I feel like anything you want to do on ball, you just go Doomfist or Winston or even Diva, depending on what you're trying to do, and they just do it better.
yeah. No, ball is I would say like the biggest like I guess loss when swapping to Overwatch 2
Yeah,
because his entire playstyle was having that main tank who could take space and like have that front line, and you lose that, you lost that second tank in the swap to Overwatch 2. So now he has to try and make space, and it doesn't work with his playstyle and his kit. It just doesn't.
right. That's fair. All right. Sigma. Um, I would be inclined to put him here, but with dive being very strong right now, poke really isn't the way. I mean, I still kind of want to put him here, but I could
I
be convinced for B, honestly.
I would probably
Because
personally put him in B just because of the meta.
true.
Like
Plus, I mean, I guess
Sigma is still a good like tank.
yeah, yeah, I
Like he
agree.
always has
He's
been good.
but he as
Just
far as meta is
the
right
meta has
now,
just swapped over
it's
to
just
dive,
shifted.
and he's just hmm
And he also I feel like the recent nerf to him didn't do like a lot, but I it hurt his survivability because his whole point was to be able to stand there and not die.
yeah.
And now they've
It's
opened up
also like the first nerf he's received in I don't know how long.
right. I they got
At
rid
least
of
since
like his
Overwatch 2.
they got rid of his like rock one shot thing where he could rock and double orb and kill. They got rid of that a little
Yeah.
while ago, but I think that's the only other thing they've touched on him. In fact, they no, I don't think
I
they've
mean, you can
buffed
still one
him.
shot with rock shoot melee.
True, if they're close,
I
yeah, that is true.
yeah, it's still there,
It just
but
requires a
definitely
little extra
harder.
melee. Exactly. You can't do it at
Yeah.
range anymore. They have to be right on top of you. A good
Yeah.
Sigma that then you're if you're too close to him. All right, cool. I agree. Um, Junker Queen,
Queen. Ooh,
Queen, the Queen. Um, I'd put her like top of B.
I would agree.
I'd put her top of B because like again, meta's dive. She isn't dive, but I feel like she's still really strong. Like I feel like
But she does well into dive usually.
that is true, and she does. I feel like she's just really good all around. Like obviously she doesn't have the armor or the barrier that a lot of the
Hmm.
heroes have, but I feel like if you're gonna choose brawl into dive, she's probably your best option. And she's very
Well,
good at like getting value regardless. Like obviously certain characters play better with her, but I feel like it
hmm.
doesn't really matter what the other team is. She's going to get value. And they recently gave her spread up buff, which helps her damage numbers,
Yes,
especially at a little bit of a range. Because her biggest problem is she had to go in, but
yes,
now she can
exactly.
stay a little bit further back for longer and choose when to go in.
Yeah,
Almost like that dive mentality, I guess.
dive mentality on the queen.
Dive mentality on the queen. Don't quote that.
I,
uh,
I think you just invented a new queen playstyle,
a
like
new
dive
queen,
queen.
dive queen, dude. To use the alt to dive in. That's what it's. I feel like her alt hitbox is insanely forgiving too,
It is. It very much is.
and her alt is really scary to get hit by. Really, really scary.
Unless you have a Kiriko,
And oh,
which that's
we'll
just
get
that's a Kiriko
well,
issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to Kiri in a bit. We'll get to Kiri in a bit. All right. So Ramatra now this might be a little spicy, but after his armor, I feel like that did wonders for him. I would put him.
I think Ramacha's really good right now.
I would almost put him here. If it wasn't a dive meta, I would put him in S. Because it's such a dive dominated meta. I mean, we haven't put any tanks
Well, I
in
mean,
S
even
tier yet.
still, he does
He
well
still
into
does
dive.
really well. Exactly. He does really well versus Winston. I mean, he bullies Ryan. We're not going to talk about
Right.
Ryan's right. Yeah, his alt's very strong, very
Yep.
reliable. I mean, even with the more I talk about, I think I'd leave him an S. Do you disagree? I think he
I
might be the
think
best tank right now. If it wasn't for the meta, right? If the meta wasn't dive, I feel like he'd just be the best tank right now.
I would agree. Although I will say that's making me kind of think about Winston. I would say maybe move Winston up to S as well.
Really?
Just because the meta is heavily into dive, Winston is the dive tank, you
That is
know?
true. I would agree. Now, now maybe we won't get into that particular, but okay, I agree with that. So I feel like Ramatra just so much so well. I feel like
Hmm.
especially with the hitbox change to his projectiles, I feel like it's way easier to hit consistent
Yeah.
damage and the damage increase. So his ult's coming online faster, and I mean punchy mode is always been
Yep.
good. So, and like I said, his alt is just so reliable. You need to push people off point on defense. You need to push point on offense to like get that checkpoint. You need to,
Hmm.
whatever it is. I feel like it's just so reliable. Like I said, like don't get me wrong, a big shatter can change a fight, can win the game, but Annihilation just does that more often and consistently. It's
I
also a
agree with
lot
that.
harder to stuff. Like I feel like you can stuff Shatter. I feel like you can't really stuff Queen Ult very easily. Maybe like a sleep dart or something.
No, she
Uh,
has CC on her.
a lot can stuff Sigma's ult. Some things with Hog, you can't really do anything to Doomfist Salt, which is part of why I think it's so strong. Blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel like it's just good. It's just so good. Malga. It's hard to
Oh,
talk
Malga.
about Malga because he's not in ranked yet, so we haven't seen anything of that. Plus, I
Well,
think his. Go ahead.
I was gonna say like earlier today even, I think Alec Dawson tweeted out that they were changing some things about Malga before he came into comp.
Oh,
So
like
I'm not sure we can really rank him accurately because they're still like tweaking
they're
him.
still tweaking him exactly.
So
Like,
this would be like his third change being added.
but like I mean, and this is just like my narrow perception of seeing him in quick play. But like before they nerfed him recently, I'd put him here. After his nerf, I have
Oh yeah.
no idea because I don't know how he's doing. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to tell. Is it just am I a bad or good Malga? Are they a good or bad Malga? Am I playing with a good or bad Malga?
Yeah,
Because there's like no,
I think Malga's just gonna take time to kind of have people learn him, learn how he plays a bit better, and see what those changes to him are going to be when he finally does release to comp. So it's just gonna be
hmm hmm
we aren't gonna have a good idea of where he fits until that all happens.
That's fair. I'd be fine with leaving him unranked then. Since he's not in anything but unranked. All right, moving on to our first DPS, everyone's favorite Bastion.
Oh, Bastion's first, huh?
Uh-huh, Bastion. We can wait for till later if you want, but
No, let's get it. Let's do it
all
right
right,
now.
all right. Hot take.
Bastion?
I'd put him
I
there.
wanna
I feel
I
like,
wanna say S. I
of,
think as far as DPS go, you can't do much better than
I mean,
picking Bastion.
look at the tanks that are good right now. Even with the rework for Winston to be better against him, he's still really good against Winston. Ramatra is one of the few tanks that isn't like Diva that can, not just blow up instantly from getting shot at by him. But that's the thing. It's not like, oh yeah, the Diva does well against him. No, she just doesn't die instantly to his turret form if she's in the open.
Right.
Even Zarya, like if you have a good team and you have a Bastion on your team, you can just burn through Zar bubbles and just kill her, just blow her up.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of alts too can be kind of burned, like turn and burn. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but like Lifeweaver, for instance, a Bastion, a
Life
good
of the
team.
Decreed. It's
Goodbye, tree.
gone.
Goodbye. See you later. Like and with his alt rework, because his alt used to like get no value, I feel like it pretty consistently gets a kill or two. I mean, which isn't crazy, but it's enough to win fights. Like I feel like there isn't a part about him that
His alt now can consistently like get picks, yeah.
exactly when before it couldn't. And I guess it has the
Before it was just
potential to
more
get a lot.
inconsistent.
Right, exactly. I agree. Occasionally it would get picked still, but like you said, it was a consistency thing. But I mean, looking at most of the roster, like Doomfist struggles against him, Junker Queen struggles against him. I don't necessarily think
Hmm.
Hog struggles against him, but he still blows up. Sigma's probably one of the better picks for him, but like
Sigma, yeah.
Orisa, like, I mean, look at all of our almost all of our tanks. You don't want to see a Bastion. Like it's not a fun time. You have to completely change the way you play because Bastion exists on the enemy team,
Hmm.
and that just is and again, like you said, that's a Bastion problem. It's not a tank problem. It's not buff all the tanks
Yeah.
deal with Bastion. Bastion needs something to happen. And I feel like his nades sometimes just
Um,
sticks to you, and you're like, well, I guess I die because
I've I've had maids that have played a full game of ping ball before killing me. Like
yeah, like it's just bouncing all over the place and just
it is
touches you, and you're.
I
I mean, it's just Tracer Pulse Bomb, except better because it bounces. I
true.
mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I. All right, Cassidy, my boy Cassidy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Cassidy doesn't really have anything going for him right now.
I feel like the rework to his nade to try to like CC like you get there's no I feel like they literally just heard him doing that. I feel like he was way better, although like they were trying to add more like complexity to his character, I guess. But and like their need on buffing his role to like use it as a dodge ability.
Just odd
The
buffs
like
here and
weird
there.
buffs, and it's like why that's not what he needs to get value. Like I feel like there's no like I feel like there we'll get to it when we talk about the other DPSs, but I feel like there are so many other DPSs that can like in any given situation can just do what you need Cass to do better. And I feel like that his ult compared to a lot of the other DPS ults is just
His ult is, I would
fairly
say, the
weak.
worst DPS ult.
Um Let me just
I forgot.
glance.
No, Widow exists, but
But I feel
I
like
would say
Widow
it's
still gets
down
more
there.
value out of her ult for herself than he does.
What you mean? Because it can't randomly miss?
Exactly. Like I feel like his ult's buggy, and a good team is not gonna get high nooned. unless you like drop in behind him and fire it like half charged or something just to get everybody half
Unless you
HP,
pull
or they
some like
were
crazy stuff.
right, or they were all already low. For instance, like the ult
Hmm.
itself isn't going to get any value.
I have seen Castle used more just to reload than I have to actually get kills.
Exactly, you just pop ult
Like,
and pull the trigger instantly.
yeah, exactly.
Like if you look at the highest tiers of Cassidy play, they're not hitting 5k high noons. In fact, they're not getting
They're not
any
even hitting
kills.
like 1K high noons.
Exactly.
Like
They're
it's not
not hitting
happening.
anything. Alright. Speaking of useless ults.
Oh
Genji.
boy.
Um honestly he's too powerful. I think Blizzard should nerf him again.
Yeah, I think he could use a couple of nerfs.
As much as I love Genji, I have the most playtime on Genji. The first time I made it up to plat on DPS was with Genji.
Mhm.
Almost exclusively. But even so, like I feel like Blade, for instance, talking about ults specifically, although that isn't the only thing to talk about with a character, but I feel like there are certain characters that he just struggles to kill because of their like mobility, like Pharah, for instance, and they're very strong matchups against him, like Sim or Zarya.
Mhm.
But his ult by itself, without help, just can't really get value most of the time, especially when you're talking about the higher tiers of play.
Yeah.
Like
No, you
maybe it'll get a
need the
kill or
other
two.
team to mess up in
Yeah,
order for you to get value on a raw high noon.
exactly. You meant Blade.
Or raw blade.
Yeah, Raw
Whoops.
Blade. Raw High Noon. Yeah.
Yeah, raw
Um,
high noon.
but like Nano Blade, for instance, Blade EMP. Like there are a few combos that then you can get very good value out of Blade. But
Mhm.
Blade, looking at the character alone by itself, it's just not that great. And I think he's pretty good at diving and getting kills, and especially finishing off people. But like I said, like the biggest problem with Hog is there was characters that could turn off the ability for him to use one of his buttons. There are several characters on this list that turns off one of Genji's two buttons. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I feel like that alone hurts him very bad, and he kind of wants to get in close and get these like hit the right clicks, and those characters that I'm talking about forces him to give them space.
Right.
So because it's a dive season right now, I
I would
could be inclined to put him into B because a good Genji can get a lot of value. And like Necros
I would
is, kind
say
of the
B.
guy, and he has three three of his accounts are in top 500 right now,
Mhm.
but on Genji. But what were you gonna say? You would say
Yep. No, I think the meta is heavily favoring him right now, which is definitely helping. Um, but if it wasn't a dive meta, he would not be great.
yeah,
Like if you're not running dive, then he struggles a lot.
exactly. If he doesn't have dive with him, he can't. You can play Winston, and like if you're stuck with DPS that aren't diving in with you, you can still get value out of
Hmm.
Winston. I feel like Genji by himself without that, he can't sit back and poke. Like he's just not doing anything. And if he
Yeah.
doesn't have something like Nano or something to combo with his blade, if he's not again in a dive comp for some people to go in there, disrupt, get damage on people for his blade to do something, he's gonna raw blade run in and get one tapped.
Yeah.
They just do
Yeah.
nothing. Like I feel like it's way too easy to kill him out of his ult. Or like you're playing into like a Zarya, Symmetra,
Yeah.
May comp or something like that. Who are you, Moira? Who are you diving? Because whoever it is going to get bubbled, or they have their own escape cooldown.
Yep.
Like what are you going to do against the May? She just tombs. Now you don't get your dash reset. The Moira just fades away. The Zarya bubbles. Like what do you, and then just beams you, and you can't even deflect it now. I just feel
Yep.
like there's so many characters that he struggles against.
Yeah. And I would say it's characters that are, for the most part, pretty good as well right now.
I feel like Genji's one of the few characters to get value. You have to one trick him. You have to be cracked on Genji to get value.
Hmm.
Like so the best Genjis in the world, I would be inclined to put him here or here. But even at the
Yeah.
higher tiers of play, I'd still put him in C. I could even be convinced to do this. Because it's a dive
I wouldn't
meta.
say
I would put C. I would say C, right? You agree?
I would say B. Just
B
looking
because
at
of the dive meta.
because of the dive meta.
Okay, I'll agree. I'll You know what? I'll let my bias take over a little bit. I agree. B for bias. Alright, Hanzo. One of my favorite sayings is the Hanzo special. Just some random arrow clipping you in the head and you die. Hanzo also
Yep.
got a lot of playtime in the World Cup recently. In a lot of different teams.
Right.
And I feel like it was partially because, like we talked about before, supports are really strong. But it doesn't matter how strong your support are if the person gets one tapped in the head and dies.
Hmm.
So, that's kind of where Widow gets their value. Because it's a dive dominated comp, it feels wrong putting him below Genji though, I won't lie.
Uh, I think that's about right.
E?
Just the way I see it, I think as far as like the poke characters go, Hanzo is pretty good into dive, especially with that storm arrow to help fend off like a Winston jumping you or something like
Sure,
that. Like
yeah, true.
storm arrow just having that potential to kind of get that huge burst damage in to like deter them,
I feel
but
like
still not great into dive
I also
just because of the nature
I,
of it.
sure, true. I also feel like he does pretty decent in dive comps himself because like they're already like distracted about like the Genji, Tracer, Sombra and their backline, like trying to get picks or whatever, and the Hanzo's the whole time just arrow,
Hmm.
arrow, 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 and even if the like obviously you need mechanics. I'm not saying that Hanzo is a no skill character, but some of his arrows you gotta admit
Sometimes he
was
is.
not skill. You just shot in the general direction or a choke point and got kills.
Yep.
And depending on the map and depending on like there are some characters whose ults do really well with his, but I feel like his ult's pretty I wouldn't call it consistent. I would definitely not call it that, but depending on the map can get a
It's
lot of
very
value.
situational, I would say.
Very situational. It can be very strong or very useless depending on the map.
It's
Like a map like Junkertown.
it's a pretty strong zoning tool,
Mm-hmm.
being able to
True.
cut off like people from their team, like basically
Right.
isolate them from
Mm-hmm.
that,
True.
but it's still not great
Yep. Yep.
just because supports can still shoot through it. Like that it's not great, you know?
Yeah.
You'll very rarely get a kill with it unless they're like truly just already low.
And I feel like because we were talking about how it's very DPS dominated, and this just might be again like me looking through the narrow lens of the games that I've played. But I feel like because it's dive dominated, I don't know how many times I've killed Hanzo out of ult because it just has such a long casting
Has a
time.
long cast time. Yeah.
And he just dies like he positioned himself right, set up for a good arrow, and I just dove him as monkey, and the Sombra and Tracer were right there with me, and just blew him up before he could even finish casting it. Because we all heard the
Yep.
voice line start and just turned it all into him, and he just died, and the arrow didn't go off,
Yep.
or it barely went off. Like I feel like that's happened more with any character that I've faced this season with Hanzo than anyone else. Because the cast time is just so long. All right, cool. So on the topic of characters who can spam choke points and get a lot of
Junkrat,
value,
huh?
Junkrat. I'd put him there.
I am a Junkrat hater personally.
I I don't.
I don't. That doesn't mean I think he's good. That means I find him incredibly annoying.
I agree. The reason why I'm putting him up here is because thinking about Junkrat as a character, I feel like he can play in a lot of comps and get value. Like he doesn't feel like the odd man out. He has a one
Really?
shot combo. Yeah, I feel like in poke he can kind of sit back and spam chokes, throw down his trap
I
to
find
help
him as
kind
a
of
very
zone
situational
areas.
pick.
And I feel like in a dive comp he can still do the same thing, and he can just fly in like you said, even like because you're an Ana main, he can fly
Uh-huh.
in on a character like Ana and just but no fear blow you up, and maybe he'll die. You're right, but he took out the support. That's a worthwhile
I
trade.
said, the amount of times that has happened to me, just a
Is
Junkrat flying
Yeah, just
over like a
flying
roof
all over.
onto me,
What do you do
one
about it?
tapping me, then probably dying afterward is so often. It is I. Oh,
And And
But it's
the
worth
other
it for him,
reason
which is the worst part.
exactly, and the only other reason I'm putting him here is because of Tire. And I have three reasons. One, if Tire is used correctly, it's very consistent. And two, DPS alts, are very hit or miss, quite literally with some of them. But I feel like there are
You will
very
consistently get
few.
one with Tire.
Exactly, it is very consistent at getting one or two. It also has the potential to get a lot. It can clutch a lot of plays.
Hmm.
But there are very few alts that you're freaking out and turning and like I gotta get rid of that right now before somebody dies because of how consistent that it is. Even
Yes.
though it's one of the few alts that after being used can still be stopped before it actually gets value. Right? There's not a lot of other
Hmm.
alts that are like, oh my god, I gotta get away, I gotta get out, or I gotta destroy it, I gotta do something. Right? Like you don't freak out like at that panic level when you see Simwall go up or you hear sights,
Right.
or magma or core, or like there are several alts, or a raw blade, for instance. Like yeah, scary, still turn and shoot the Genji, but like the Tire is still, I feel like, so threatening. Like I feel like you hear the Tire alt going off, and you're like, oh, like the instant adrenaline spike.
Yeah.
So
Tire is a very terrifying ultimate,
I feel like
especially when put in the hands of a competent Junkrat.
and I feel like putting him on the same tier as Hanzo or Genji right now just isn't fair. I feel like he belongs in A, even though I don't necessarily want to put him there. Unless you disagree. I mean, you said you feel like he's very situational.
Yeah, I do think he's a very situational pick. Um, Usually, if you're going to be running like a spam comp, you're going to pick something like Hanzo, who has the potential to actually just one shot to the head.
Yep, that's fair.
Um, he can do all right in dive comps, but he's not usually your first pick, you know?
That's fair. I that's fair. I feel like he's a pretty
Um,
safe one-trick character because he only really
there are
struggles
so
against
many Junkrat one tricks,
there. I feel like he only struggles against flyers and that's it. Like he doesn't really have like a who am I
which
gonna play
flyers are
into
their
this.
own thing, to be
Exactly,
honest.
exactly. That's a whole nother thing, right? So if we exclude flyers, name a character that Junkrat struggles into. I don't think there is one, because if there was, he can just mine away. Or I feel like Autumn would do pretty well against him because she can poke at him from a distance while he's trying to spam grenades or like sleep dart him. Or nah, he just flies in and blows a pot on. That's just GG's. Get rolled, I guess.
Uh, yeah, no.
I've like at that like when you're getting into like the really skilled layer of gameplay. I feel like what you're saying, like it happens to you a lot on Ana. I feel like that just happens a lot in general if you're not a character with like a get out of jail free card button, Like a
Okay,
Tracer
true.
could
Yeah.
recall, Genji might be able to dash away, but like if you're, like Symmetra, if you're Widowmaker, if you're Ashe, like you kind of just blow up and die.
I think Ash does fine into Junkrat.
That's just fine because of her coach gun, and yeah, but I mean, you get what I'm saying. Like if Junkrat flies over the wall at an Ashe and just lands on her, that's just kind of goodbye Ashe.
It happens. Yeah.
And I feel like it's not very hard to hit his one shot. I'd be fine with putting him in B though. I'm fine with that.
Yep.
May. Um, I'm torn. Do you have an opinion on this?
Um, May is. Ooh.
I
I want to say May is still really good.
yeah. I mean, if it wasn't a dive dominated season, I'd put her here. Probably
And
without.
I will say, the thing is, if you aren't playing dive, she does incredible. Like,
That's
she
true.
will pop off
She
in
does. She
any
gets a
other comp.
lot of value. I mean, even in I've played a lot of Doomfist. I love it when I have
Hmm.
a Mei on my team.
Yeah,
Her
because you
slowing
have
people
that
down or
frontline pressure swing.
walling or whatever it is. Exactly. Like she can help kind of dominate the space while I can go and do work in the back.
Yeah, she's like the tank of the DPS.
Yeah.
It's like,
I,
yeah.
I, I would be very happy putting her in A and leaving her there.
I would also, yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Okay. All right. Farah.
Oh boy.
um, are we gonna talk about Farah with Mercy Pocket or without? Because I feel like that's a very important
You have to
distinction.
talk about with Mercy
You
Pocket.
have to talk with Mercy Pocket.
You have to talk about it with.
I mean, I mean. Now hear me out.
If there is a good Mercy, there is nothing you can do about it. It
And
doesn't matter how
how
good you are, you just cannot do anything about it.
you can complain that there's counters on the list, right? You can be like, oh, I can't play Genji into Zarb, Sim, whatever. Or I can't play Winston into Reaper or Bastion, or Ryan into Bastion, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
How many characters demand that you play a specific type of character to even be allowed to fight them?
Mm-hmm.
Not.
Yeah.
I can think of one, and it's Pharah. When you see a Pharah, it's like we need a hit scan to deal with that. Now, don't get me wrong, some very skilled, Genji or maybe even Hanzo players, like I've seen Pharah die to Junkrats, even in like Platinum and Diamond lobbies,
But
um, but those
the
are
thing is, it's not just Farah. Farah on her own, you can deal with that without having a hit scan.
true.
It's when there is that Mercy Pocket that you
Exactly.
truly just need, like an Ashe
Yeah.
or a Widow. I would say Cass, but
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
to play
I
Cass,
mean, Soldier
and no
does.
one wants that.
Soldier and Baptiste both do okay. Alari and
Yari does really well into
yeah,
that, which
yep.
I'm glad they added her. That's
Bastion,
my
Bastion's S tier. I feel like you see a
Bastion.
lot of Bastion to fight her.
Again, if it's a good pharmacy, there is so little you can
I know.
actually do
And the
about it.
Mercy feels immortal as well. 'Cause it's like, oh, I can't kill the Pharah because of the Mercy. Well, you can't kill the Mercy because
You
she's
can't kill
zipping
the
around
Mercy.
more than the more than the Pharah is.
She's
Like
either zipping around or behind a wall.
a good Pharah will be able to keep the Mercy out of line of fire half of the game,
Hmm.
if not more. And when you do see her, she's zipping around in the air.
Yeah, and
And
just
it's like, oh, you killed the Pharah? Darn. Mercy reses.
mhm.
Nothing happened.
And the worst part is if you're playing tank, you have so little options to
Yeah.
deal with that.
Hopefully, Malga becomes an option for Tank to do something
Malga
about that.
might become an option, but
Ramatra was
if
supposed to be that for us, and he wasn't. I feel like I've been playing a lot
yeah,
of Winston into Pharah Mercy because I feel like he's one of the few characters that kind of try to chase them down to like finish them off after they're low, but they still gotta
I
get
say
low first.
Diva is the
Diva,
best option you
yeah,
have,
exactly.
but you
She's like
have
the
to use
only option you have.
everything to do it.
That or you go
You
dive and
have to
just
use
ignore her.
boosters, you have to use micro missiles, you have
That's
to
true.
use everything. You have
Yeah,
to
you have to
all
all
in
in.
on that.
Exactly. That is true.
And even then, it doesn't always work.
And the only other tanks that do decent, you just decide to pretend that they're not there. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Because like some people are like, oh, you just go ball or doom and just ignore her. Like, yeah, and she rolls my backline and then I blow up anyways. Like
Yeah.
it's. Well, I just got to try to roll harder than the Far Mercy is, but she two taps.
Hmm.
And like, I mean, I don't want to sound mean. Like I've played a lot of Pharah. I enjoy playing Pharah. I'm not saying that our like rockets don't take a lot of skill, but I'm like so consistent. It's so consistent with the
Right.
Mercy Pocket. There's just so much damage. If you're positioned correctly, it's just damage, damage, damage. Like you're not
Yep.
missing very often. All right, cool.
It's
Reaper.
just, yeah. I think Reaper's all right now. I can see him being played more. Although I think Bastion has kind of taken his spot in the anti-dive category.
True.
I think he is still very solid into that. Like he still has his place,
I would
but
put him in A because looking at our other DPS we have on the roster, I feel like especially with the meta right now, he just performs better than they do most of the time.
mhm. Yeah.
And I feel like it's not quite as raw cut as that, but if you like compare him directly to Genji, for instance, he just has a better get in than Genji does, and a better get out than Genji does, and his ult does better than Genji's does most of the time, especially by itself.
Most of the time.
He has 50 more HP than he does. He heals himself. He has more DPS. Like I feel like Reaper's just a really good pick. He does really well into Winston. Like, you make the
Hmm.
Winston have to avoid you. He's like the tank buster.
Hmm.
I feel like he even
And
does well against Bastion too. He hits a flank and just pokes at the Bastion. Worst thing happens, the Bastion starts to hurt
yeah,
you. You wraith out. You just
yep.
fly back to your team and get healed and do it again.
Honestly, I think that is the strongest thing Reaper has going for him is he's good into Bastion,
True.
who is very strong right
Who
now.
who is right now our strongest DPS?
Yes.
So yeah. Okay. So you're happy with the Monet?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Torbjorn.
Torbjorn.
Torbjorn. Um,
They did nerf him
and then buffed him.
and then nerfed him again.
And, yeah, and then buffed him again. He's been very back and forth. Um, I don't know how to feel about Torbjorn. I used to think he was a very low skill character because like I felt like his turret was a lot of his value,
Hmm.
and it's just kind of free. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that people talk about with the Lori, nowadays. But the more I've played with Torbjorns and like getting higher and higher ranked, I feel like that's just not necessarily true. Like I feel like knowing where to put your turret and positioning and knowing when and how and what to do matters a lot with Torbjorn. And I feel
Right.
like he's one of the few not dive characters that can deal with dive and not instantly blow up and die. That
Yes, I
being
I fully agree with that.
that being said, Bastion's just a better pick than him in that situation, I feel.
Torbjorn
I
Torbjorn is interesting because of his turret, right?
Mhm.
His turret does really well against like Tracer and Sombra just for like protecting your backline from them.
True.
Uh,
True. It's
his
very
he
good at
has his
finishing.
overload, which makes him shoot very fast and is very scary if you dive him and he just pops that.
It
You
reloads for him
you
too.
have to disengage from that
Uh-huh.
because he will just absolutely melt you.
I've seen his turret even take down Pharos in Mercy Pocket.
I've personally not seen that. I wish I have though.
I, I mean, it was probably all quick play games, so who knows what rank it
Probably.
was, but I would be content putting him in A or B. I don't necessarily know where I'd put him. Maybe like high B,
I'd agree with that.
like above the
I
other
think if you're
DPS
looking
NP.
for anti-dive, Reaper is a good pick. I think
Yep.
Torbjorn is kind of similar to Reaper in that way, but you kind of need to have your overload on cooldown to dish out that same amount of damage.
True. I feel like his biggest problem is that he only really has the one cool. Like yes, his turret's there, and that's kind of like a part of him and his kit, and he can
Hmm.
repair it and whatever, pull out his hammer. But his overload is both his offensive and defensive button. Like if you look at most of
Hmm.
the roster for, and this is what's holding me back from putting him in A, or higher, is because if you look at most of the roster, a lot of them have a defensive button that doesn't cost them their offense. Like Soldier, for instance, Tracer with a recall, Soldier with
Right.
sprint. I mean, Pharah's just flying, but Reaper's Wraith form, he doesn't have to use that to get offensive value.
Right.
Junkrat doesn't have to use his trap to get offensive value, or he can save a mine to get out. Like a lot of the DPS roster has that button. They get like Translocator, Coach Gun. You don't need to use it offensively, but he does. And when he
Yeah.
does, I feel like it puts him in such a dangerous position at that point. Like he pops that, now what does he have?
I said when he pops overload, it's like kind of same like threat level as like a turreted bastion.
True,
Like you just have to get out of there.
true. And then, but it lasts so much less long.
Right.
um, yeah, okay. I'm happy with that. Soldier.
I think Soldier, I mean, he's a pretty good all-around hero, you know?
I agree. I feel like a flanking I feel like a flanking soldier can get a lot of value, and it's very hard to
Hmm.
punish him, especially if he has a duo. Like if he has a duo like a Lari or Mercy with him, you're probably
Hmm.
just it's gonna be really hard, and it's gonna be distracting to send however many people you do after to try to shut him down, and probably just not be able to.
Yeah,
He has his own
I will say
sustain. He has. Go ahead.
they did nerf his self-healing, which
Mm-hmm.
I've played a few games as Soldier, and I've definitely felt that.
Uh-huh.
Like you can definitely feel like, oh man, I would have had my healing by now. This is a scary situation now.
Mm-hmm.
But he still does very good damage.
Yeah.
He's still his Helix rockets are still very strong for being able to like basically one tap a tracer or you know.
And I feel like he
It
doesn't struggle against any comps either. Like
no, he's very all right and like yeah,
he does
he's a
he
very
does
good
he
all
is hit
round
scan like
character.
and but like you said his Helix rocket and like he has a lot of burst damage potential. And because his
Hmm.
sprint's always online, he's never in a position where it's like, you see a Curie burn Suzu and TP, it's like, "Oh, okay, the Curie's in danger." Or you see like the Moira fade or the Reaper does the same,
Yeah.
like there's so many characters they burn their cooldown. It's like, "All right, we can get them now. They're killable." He always has his button. It never goes away. So,
Yes. It's yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Symmetra. I feel like
um, Symmetra, I think on a good sim map is very good.
I mean, honestly, here's my opinion. On a not Symmetra map, on a Symmetra map,
Kind of right.
you know, like if it's not one of her maps that she does well on, she's like, I mean, I'd almost put her here. Especially since it's dive meta right now, she doesn't have a response to dive, really. She has her
Hmm.
teleporter, sure, but like, have you ever tried whipping out a teleporter while getting dove by the Winston Sombra Tracer?
Yeah.
Doesn't pan out too well usually. Unless you're full beam, you're not out DPSing it. But on the map she does well on, she does really well on.
Hmm.
I feel like she almost needs to have her own category. She is either S or D, and there's no time she's ever in between. So I
Yeah.
don't.
No.
I mean, if I had to put her into definitive tier, I'd just put her in B. Because I feel like when she's good, she's really good, and when she's bad, she's pretty bad.
Hmm.
So
I
yeah,
do think she does bring a lot of utility to the team with that
mhm,
teleporter,
that is true.
like
Some
being
comps
able
rely
to
on it.
get in or out. Yeah.
So like the comp I
No, I
mentioned earlier, the Sim May Ryan Rush comp.
yes.
So
Yeah, no, I would agree with B.
okay, cool. Oh, Tracer. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
There isn't really an argument to be made there. They give her damage back.
Yep.
She builds ult really fast now. I mean, her ult isn't crazy, but she gets it online so often. It kind of makes up
Hmm.
for it. She's so annoying and hard to kill. She does really well with Winston and Sombra. It's
And she has always been like a very strong hero with a high
true.
skill ceiling.
True. Her recall's
And
very strong.
just them buffing all of the dive heroes at once,
Yeah,
you know?
she is having a field day right now. She is the
Yes,
lowest HP
exactly.
out of the entire hero pool and is still pulling ridiculous numbers.
Hmm.
So, and I and I feel like all the good picks against Tracer aren't doing very well right now.
Uh, yeah.
Like I feel like good things to play against Tracer is like Cassidy,
Cass.
Genji, Torbjorn, Ashe, and that list kind of ends there. Like I feel like there just isn't really a lot of good responses to the trade. Like how often is like, ah, yep, Tracer's on the support again. Oh, well, there goes our
Yeah.
Ana. Well,
Yeah. A good tracer is
just
so
a menace.
incredibly pesky. It is so annoying.
And I feel like her kit's very similar to Reaper. She has the buttons, I guess, that help her get in, and she has a button that gets her right out. But I feel like if you compare her directly to Reaper, Tracer just gets
Hmm.
more value right now,
Yeah.
especially with her hypermobility playing around bubble.
Yeah.
And like even to talk about Pharah, like even though it's not dive, if you have a Pharah, if you have a Pharah tracer, I mean you're looking like all around you, behind you for the blips and the rockets coming down from the sky. Like it's such a
It can
large
be very
distraction.
aggressive.
It's such a very large distraction for that. All right, Widowmaker. Um,
I don't think Widow's very good right now.
I agree. I mean, I'd be inclined to put her there. Not quite here. I don't think she's as useless as Ball. Again, a very very good Widow hitting those one taps wins fights
Oh,
by
Widow
itself.
can
I
absolutely carry an entire
like
game
a
just by
cracked
herself. Yeah,
Widow, s easy, but most
but
Widows
not
aren't that.
everyone is like Kenzo
And
or like it's.
and Tracer, not really her, but Tracer, Bastion, Winston, Sombra. I mean, there's Echo,
Sombra's the big one. Yeah.
sort of, not really. Lucio, Kiri, like there's so many characters that are good into her if she
Oh,
doesn't have
Lucio.
protection.
Yeah.
And where I'm looking at you, Frogger.
Yep.
but but I mean, she doesn't. She's not like the pick versus any other character. It's just like, are you gonna hit your one taps or are you not?
Hmm.
And especially in a dive dominated comp, she's not going to get the support that she needs. And I don't mean from the support class. I mean
It's
like
just a
the
lot
support in
harder to
general
get. Yeah.
to get value. Like you need somebody to basically baby her to protect her so she
Hmm.
can hit those one taps. And again, you have to have some cracked mechanics to get value. If
Uh-huh.
you're not hitting the one shots, you're just doing nothing. You might as well have played literally any other hero on the list.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So as much as I hate to say it, because I enjoy playing
There's just
Widow,
better picks than Widow right now.
yeah,
That's it.
I just put her in D. Sombra, I mean,
That the Sombra buffs are scary.
I don't care about like I know I do care, but the dev keep talking about like, oh, our win rate still isn't like doing great. That's why we're buffing her, bro. I don't know what tier of gameplay they're taking that from. In
Hmm.
my games, the Sombra dominates most of the time. Like either Sombra does nothing, and it's not an issue with Sombra, it's an issue with the player. I think I want to
Hmm.
say at least, or like she dominates. Like she shuts down a lot of characters, and she can
Yeah.
name a DPS that can ult cancel other than her. I don't think there is one. Is there? I don't think any other DPS
Not
can
unless it's
cancel ults.
a kill cancel.
Exactly. It's either
I
you
think
kill the thing
McCree can
ulting or
cancel a Queen ult, but that's
right with Hinder. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
true.
that's just a niche unlucky.
Yeah, that's very imagine getting hindered out of
Mhm.
Queen. Oh, I would cry. Oh,
Yeah, no, she's one of the. She has that hard CC lockout ability.
it's so
That's
annoying to play against too.
Mhm.
So annoying.
It's yeah, it can definitely be rough.
I mean, we're talking about that with we. I mean, I don't remember if it was with you, but I've had a recent conversation about how I didn't like how they were introducing more things like that, like Malgasult. Malgasult does the same thing. It turns off half the
Yep, it
rosters of
turns off
characters'
like most of your
abilities.
abilities.
The majority of characters lose one, if not all, their abilities while in Malgasult.
Hmm.
So, all right, Ash. Um,
I think Ash is better than Widow.
definitely, but I
However,
feel like she's
to
still
really get
struggling.
value, she doesn't need a mercy pocket.
Yeah, I do agree.
And even with the mercy pocket, I think running a Sojourn is just better.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, for a long time, I felt like she sat here, right?
Hmm.
But I
Because she
mean,
was a very solid
I
pick
feel
during like
like
the
what
post season.
she got reload speed, and that was it. Like everybody else has gotten something in their favor. Soldier got Helix Rocket and primary fire damage. I think they reverted the Helix Rocket though. Then they realized like, wow, Soldier's really strong, and they took some power away from him there. I mean, I feel like
Hmm.
everybody has gotten love, and she just hasn't. It's like, oh, you reload slightly faster.
Well, the reload was her biggest
I agree.
drawback to picking her.
I agree. But like you said, why play Ash when Soldier exists?
Exactly.
Is she just I mean, even with Mercy Pocket, I feel like if you're gonna Mercy Pocket the Ash or the Soldier and they're both equally skilled, it's
You're gonna
gonna
get
be the
this. You're
Soldier.
gonna pocket the Sojourn.
It's gonna be the Soldier. And she's a projectile character, Soldier. Speaking on Soldier, she's a projectile
Hmm.
character that also has that hit scan to deal with the Mercy Pocket, the Mercy on Farah.
Yeah.
So, and She just has so much shock damage. And don't get me wrong, Bob can get a lot of value in a lot
Bob
of
is a very good
situations,
ultimate. Yes.
but we'll talk about it later. Ana exists, so you know, there's that.
Yeah, Ana is very quickly becoming a problematic hero in
Yes,
the community.
yes, she is very. There are
Seeing
certain
lots of
things that you
talks
just
about
can't
anti-nade, specifically Ana.
anti-nade. Yeah, but specifically her sleep dart for Ashe is all like Bob's really good ult. If there's an Ana on the enemy team and she sleep darts it, and nobody touches him. Well, there went the best part of your kit.
Yep.
I feel like her dynamite hits so often too, even in the higher tiers of play. Like unless you have a diva on your team that's really good at like playing dynamite,
I'm
dynamite goalie
terrible at hitting
basically.
Ash's dynamite. I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, it's so
I
hard
can't
to
do it for
do.
some
It's
reason.
so hard to do, honestly. Um, yeah, I feel like. I mean, I really want to put her in A, but I just feel like just ain't it. I'm fine with her being in B. But on the topics
Yeah.
of Sojourn,
Yes.
I mean,
Soldier's still very strong.
I feel like she's kind of the sleeper pick. Like she got nerfed and like blah, a bunch of, and then they touched Mercy, and then everyone's like, oh, Soldier and bad. Nah, I don't know, man. I seen some Soldier in plays. I feel
Yeah.
like she just randomly gets like a crazy 5K, and like don't get me wrong, it's not like unskilled or anything like that, but it's like everyone's like, oh, that was a Soldier in moment. Like she's literally trademarked that, like just randomly popping off. That's like her thing.
And like, yeah, she can't one tap anymore unless she has a mercy pocket. But you need 5 more damage to get that one tap. Like,
Yeah.
that's
You
one
just
bullet to hit.
sneeze on them. It's not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hard to do. Um yeah. That's that. All right. Echo. Echo, Echo,
I
Echo.
I think Echo's pretty good right now.
I'd put her in A because I think Farah, I think Mercy Pocket on both of these characters are very strong,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like the Farah is just harder to kill. I feel like Echo's ult gets a lot of value though, so I'm almost tempted to put her here. Like I'm very tempted. I don't know if
Ooh.
it's just me not seeing good echoes or something like that, because I feel like she should do better than Farah, because Farah's ult, to be honest, is just kind of bad.
Yeah, Farazal is probably the worst part of her kit, which
For
is just
sure. Like, sometimes it
funny.
feels like ulting was worse than just shooting more rockets regularly.
And it probably is, yeah.
I feel like every time I ult as Farah, I'm consigning myself to death. Like, alright, I'm gonna die here. Maybe you'll get a couple picks to make up for it, though. Like,
I mean, hey, a good Pharah ult is an ult where you don't die. Like,
Truth. Truth. I feel like it's a lot of the same problem Genji has, except Farah gets so much more value outside of ult.
mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, do you have anything else to say about Echo? I really want to put her in S, but I don't know what it is. Like, maybe I'm just getting, like, bad echoes, but
I think it's the fact that while she is good, like on her own, you're typically gonna play her with a mercy pocket for that extra value. It breaks like thresholds with her sticky bombs. Like
uh-huh.
it's better to have that mercy pocket, which I'm sure we'll come back to, but Mercy isn't the greatest hero at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. I mean,
Yep.
a good Mercy, very valuable, but I mean, if you look at the other support on the
We'll come
roster,
back to that.
yeah, we'll come back to that. Um, yeah. And I feel like Mercy's a lot more safe with a Pharah than she is a Echo. Like, if I'm playing
Mhm.
Mercy and I'm trying to live, I'm gonna go with the Pharah instead of the
It is a
Echo.
much riskier game playing with the Echo, yeah.
And the Echo, like, a lot of people talk about how much value her beam gets, like, especially against, like, tanks, because of how good it is at finishing off targets. But my
Hmm.
response to that is Echo has 3 buttons. She has her blobs, she has her beam, and she has her fly. For her to get value out of her beam, she has to burn her fly, and after she does that, she doesn't have a button to get out anymore. So
Right.
she has to all in somebody to get value out of that ability, which don't get me wrong, it's very good, but then it's like now she's in the mix. You know, she needs help to get back out.
Yeah. Which is why that Mercy Pocket like helps her out so much with that.
Yep. All right, cool. Lucio,
Oh, onto the supports.
the first support. Um, Again, might be my biases. I don't play a lot of Lucio. I very much like playing him.
Hmm.
I maybe, maybe, but so again, dive orientated meta, but
Hmm.
Lucio is so. I feel like when you talk Rush, Lucio comes up every time.
Well, I mean, yeah.
He is like the Rush character. Like he makes so many Rush
Well, he's like
comps.
a necessity for the rush.
Exactly. So I feel like maybe right now A, but any in almost any other meta, he's S every time. And it's because of his necessity. Like he is a must pick in those comps. And like we talked about recently, I feel like if I mean, it feels like his boop needs help, but also if they gave him his something for his boop, I feel like he'd just be us
He would be
all the
very
time.
strong.
He'd just be one of the best support picks right now. Just so
Hmm.
consistent, and he also has like that clutch factor of like maintaining presence on point in overtime and being able to like go after the widow or whoever to go try to do boop some people off the map and get like a crazy environmental kill and sway the whole fight perhaps. Beat's really
Right.
strong.
The one thing that stopped me from like putting him super high is just looking at the other supports that you could play instead.
True.
Like,
True.
I'm
True.
just gonna say it. He's not the best like support to pick right now.
That's true.
That's just how it is. He'll do perfectly fine in a dive composition or in really most compositions, but you could just pick Anna.
I feel like a lot of the other support right now just invoke more fear than a Lucio does. Like you get frustrated or upset when Lucio boops you off the map because you're like, "Ah, come on," or whatever.
Mhm.
But like you don't see a Lucio and go like, "Oh, they got a Lucio, they got a Lucio." It's not like not a. It's more like, can somebody please just kill the Lucio that's been wall riding and bouncing on point for the last 30 seconds? You know what I'm saying? Like he's more of
Right.
a nuisance than. I'm not scared about the Lucio most of the time, just going and manhandling my backline. Um, so and the more we talk about it, the more I almost want to move him right here.
I would put him lower, to be
Even
honest.
lower,
I
really?
mean, just in the scale of supports,
There is only one
he's
support in my
brilliant.
opinion right now that deserves to be lower than B.
That's fair.
uh,
I might agree with that.
and the one support is Mercy.
Is Mercy? Yeah.
I mean,
Mercy's only real saving grace is that like Farah and Sojourn are good.
yeah, exactly. Like
Like the only time you're really gonna be playing Mercy is if you have like a Farah.
her value comes from somebody else. Is her problem. And
Yes.
she's been. Don't get me wrong, a good res can upset a fight. Like, can upset, one of those one taps
Oh,
from.
a good res can go absolutely crazy, yeah.
But I feel like,
But
although Valkyrie's good as an ult, even too, like, look at the other support ults.
I want
Every
to say
single one
Valk
of
is one
them.
of the weaker support
It
alts.
might be the weakest support ult. I can't think of one
I
that
would
I wouldn't
argue like
replace it with.
B B is
I feel like you can be
situational.
so aggressive with beat though. Like I
Like
feel
you can melt through it so quickly.
true.
Especially looking
Goes
at
away
who's
fast.
meta right now, like
Maybe.
Bastion,
Yeah, I'd almost put it on
Sojourn.
par with beat. I'd tie both of them for last place.
Yeah, that's fair.
um okay. Yeah, I guess that's
That's it's just
and And
kind of the same thing as Lucio, but
I say it
there's
a
just
lot.
better supports to pick.
I say it a lot because sometimes I like see Mercy. Like Mercy can get a lot of healing. Don't get me wrong, but she has no burst healing potential. It's just a lot of sustained healing because the beam doesn't disconnect very often. But I feel like if you're yellow beaming on Mercy, you're already losing the game, right? Like in theory, theoretically speaking, if you have her paired with like a soldier or a Pharah, like in these situations where she's performing
Hmm.
good, you prefer blue beam to be 100% of the time. Now it can't be obviously because you have to heal your pocket target, or sometimes healing needs to be done on the rest of the team. But if you never want to be yellow instead of blue, you know what I'm saying?
Right. I
And
say like the Mercy like blue to yellow beam ratio should be like 70% blue beam, like 30% yellow.
true, yeah,
Like it truly should be mostly blue.
yeah. And I think that's true all the way through like the highest tiers of the metal ranks, all the way up through the rest. Like plat and up. I feel like that is the ratio that good performing mercies do get. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think that any of these characters can't perform well at a high tier. I mean, like
Hmm.
I've seen some I can't remember his name right now, but he made it to first in top 500 on Reinhardt alone.
Oh
Um
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
I,
I cannot remember his name.
I think you know who I'm
Just,
talking about though.
it starts with a B.
I I'd love to tell you, man. I can't remember. But like a
Regardless.
lot of these characters can still get a lot of value. It's not like they're unplayable. It's just better
Hmm.
options most of the time for most players. The 95% of players, if not more, there's better options for them. All right, and
Yeah. I
I
mean, yeah.
I don't think there's anything to be said. I feel like she is a very hot button topic
Do we
right
just want to
now.
like, just while we're on Honest, throw like a brig up there as well? Just,
Yeah, I
just
mean,
while we're here.
while we're here, I mean, it's funny. I don't I don't think there's I don't think there's a lot to be said about that. I feel like
Ana, one of the best supports in the game, with
Nano's
some of the best abilities and ultimate in the support roster.
yeah, Nano's really strong. It makes some characters actually bring value with their ults where they
Hmm.
wouldn't before. Some characters can just get raw value without an ult with it. Her
And the
anti
biggest
is really
downside
good.
being survivability. The brig just
Yeah.
didn't fixes that issue.
Yep, Brig fixed it. And Brig's really good right now. I mean, really good.
Hmm.
So, I mean, even like Winston, because dive is pretty strong for against Ana, right?
Hmm.
Because if she burns her sleep dart, she doesn't have another button really to stop herself from getting.
And if you're getting dived by or dove by like three people,
Yeah,
you can't sleep them all.
yeah, exactly. But the Brig being there kind of changes that. She doesn't have to sleep them all.
Exactly.
I don't know how many times I've dove an Ana with a good Brig and just had to
It can
leave.
feel
Like the
low-key
Ana,
impossible to kill a
yeah,
good brig Ana.
because the Ana, I've literally had the Ana just ignore me as Winston, even more recently after the buff, because I dove her and she like popped some shots or like threw her nade down for the Brig or whatever, and maybe
Hmm.
antied me or something, maybe slept dart me for a split second. And the Brig just insta woke me up, but she just ignores me and keeps healing her tank or her, whoever else is diving on my side or whatever, and just does
Because
pretends
the
I'm not
brig
there.
will just, yeah, the brig will just keep her up. It just doesn't matter if you're there or
And it's
not.
hard to kill. And if you actually start killing the Brig, then the Ana just turns to help the Brig. And
Hmm.
if you can't get the Ana low because the Brig's just proccing Inspire the whole time.
Yep. It's it's a very strong combo,
Very, very strong combo.
especially with the dive meta just having, because the Ana is the weakest link in that composition. So having that brig there to truly just solidify that entire like weak link, that's that, you know?
Yeah, that's
Suddenly it becomes the hardest part to break through.
it is. And I feel like she is very good at, like we talked about Hanzo's ult being good at zoning. Brig in general is just good at zoning. She's a good
Yeah.
denier. She denies you from getting dive. She can help secure kills. Sometimes rallies really strong. She could deny high ground a lot of the time.
Hmm.
Like I don't know. Is it Paraiso? What's the map when when you first come out. It's a very colorful town, but there's like that bridge to start out with when you are first attacking that everybody sits up
Rialto?
on. Is that Rialto? It might be. My brain isn't working right now for the names, but I don't know how many times, like, because you know you kind of sit up on that bridge and maybe back up to the next one, like before letting them take point. Like you hold that high ground with your life, basically. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how many times I've played like Diva or Winston, knowing that that's what's gonna happen, and the brig's just like no, and just denies it. Just nope, you're
Mm-hmm.
staying down there. I'm burning cooldown for cooldown, except the brig, like the brig can just continue to just hold that to help secure that high ground, and she does it better than a lot of the tanks do, which is
She
crazy.
does.
She like does the tank's job almost. She's denying that space.
Mm-hmm. And she's very good at it.
If May is the tank for DPS, she's the tank for support.
Support.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Zenyatta.
Well,
Uh,
I will say you did throw Curie up there, so let's not forget.
I did that on purpose. I was kind of skipping over, but yeah, fine, fine. We'll talk about her.
We should talk about Curie.
Suzu.
Suzu.
Yeah. All right. On to but on a serious note, she's just so strong. Her kunai are
She's so
scary.
hard to kill.
She
Her
has the wall
survivability is
climb.
insane.
Her TP comes on too fast. Her Suzu's one of the. I mean, look at what's strong right now, right?
On a nade.
Look at what's strong right now. Like, how many times have you had a kill or a massive anti or whatever and just Suzu? Bye
Hmm.
bye. And it's 110 healing now in those situations, or 80
Hmm.
otherwise. Like, and a well-timed Suzu can still stop a lot. Like, name an ult that a perfectly timed Suzu doesn't save you from. I don't think there is one.
I got nothing.
A perfect Suzu will save you every time. So if you're like even look like even at what we're talking about, like the higher tiers of play to the highest tiers of play, she just dominates. Honestly, she
No, she is incredibly good all the way from bronze to grandmaster. Like
yeah
you can
her
get so much value with her just from her raw healing output as
yeah
well.
her Afuda getting
To
buffed
a
recently.
lot a lot of value from her to tapping with kunai.
I've seen
Suzu.
so much more often. It used to be like the Curie would hit the flank, Suzu herself, and TP out. Now she
Hmm.
hits the flank, Suzu's herself, keeps fighting for a little bit, then TP's out. And then I dive her for burning all of her cooldowns, and she gets TP back before I can kill her.
Yeah.
Like,
Trying
it's
to
just
chase her down on
ridiculous
like
trying to
Winston
chase
or
her.
Diva
Yeah,
is
exactly. You think
it's like
dive would do well
impossible.
against her, and she just leaves every time.
Hmm.
And then, like, or if you're playing one of, like, if you look at the strong flankers again, like Tracer, I've died to a really good Curie several times, just like diving their backline. She just turns and clips me in the head with a kunai.
Hmm.
That's just GG's. Like, I'm done.
They did nerf her so you can't headshot melee the tracer anymore to kill her, but
Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that. That's
yeah,
really funny.
but you can still headshot body shot.
Yep. I mean, it's not, and I feel like the hitbox on her kunai is a little too forgiving too. I won't lie.
It is very forgiving. It's like Hanzo arrow level of
Like I used
forgiving.
to think, because like I said, I have the most playtime on Genji. I used to think her kunai
Hmm.
had the same. No, it is so much easier to hit kunai than it is
Hmm.
Genji. Because I like use her kunai like the same lead and everything like I do on Genji, and like I hit a decent amount of shurikens on Genji, but he's throwing three. I feel like I hit a lot of
Right.
my kunai.
Yeah.
Um, I first came to Overwatch in Overwatch 2 too, and I like no lifed Curie, and being brand new at the game, like I hadn't played ranked yet,
Right.
but the MMR system was throwing me into high gold when I first started playing support on Curie, and
Yeah.
I wasn't that good. I think that was just a value of the character back then. And I feel
Yeah.
like they've touched her a lot. I feel like it still hasn't solved the problem, and the problem is Suzu.
Well, they've touched her a lot, mostly in buffs.
I the
Like that's
she
kind of the crazy part. Like
she,
she is
she
Overwatch's favorite right
yeah, she
now.
is she is Blizzard's favorite support for sure. Everybody else gets
Yeah.
nerfed across the board. Kiri, they're like, nah, she needs even
No,
more
let's buff
love.
Suzu again.
Yeah, she
Like,
also
oh,
hot take. She also has the the best animatic out of all the support.
I would agree. It's a good one.
Easy. So that just gives her bonus points, honestly. I mean,
Hmm.
maybe she should go in SS tier. I mean, I have never been mad about having a Curie on my team. I've never,
No.
no comp ever that I've ever played any character have I been like, oh great, I have a Curie.
Yeah, no.
She's just
You will
always good.
never complain about a Kiri.
There's no support like I'll be mildly upset with a Mercy Zen, right? For obvious reasons. Or like a
Sure.
Mercy Lucio. A Curie anybody. I don't care. It doesn't really matter. Like she still
Hmm.
gets value. So alright. Anything else on Curie?
Um, you know, that's about it.
Yeah. Oh right. Rush. Rush is
Oh,
Rush,
how
my
can I forget?
opinion, best alt in the game, period.
Best alt in the game, period. I would definitely say best support alt.
Best support alt?
I would
What
definitely say best support alt.
what other alt do you think's better than Rush though?
Well, the thing is, it's all situational, right?
Sure, I agree, but
But like,
I feel like the
Ramatra alt is
situationalness
very good.
true, I agree. And Ramatra's very strong. But
Sojourn alt.
but like insert alt here, Curie Rush just turns it into a godsend. It's so
True.
hard to kill out a Curie Rush, and you can't cancel it by any means. It has like an instantaneous casting time.
The only way you can cancel it is by killing her during the cast. Even stunning her out of it doesn't cancel it.
Exactly. You have to kill her as soon as she starts saying the words. Like, and it
Hmm.
has to have just been accidental, honestly. You're never going to time
Hmm.
that. There's no way to know. And it gets so much value. And, like, add it, an Anai, Rush, Ramatra, terrifying. Rush,
Hmm.
Bastion in turret form, terrifying. Rush,
Yeah.
most of the characters is just Rush Reaper Alt, Rush Visor, Rush Doomfist, just his cooldowns coming back instantaneously.
Hmm.
Azaria being able to just walk down the enemy team. Like, there's so much. of,
I have single-handedly saved a game by having a rushed tracer on point in
yeah,
overtime,
true. And you
and
just
the
can't kill her.
blink comes
Blink,
down like
blink, 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 blink.
it comes down so quick they just could not kill.
exactly.
Like it was truly just
And we talked about before her kunai being scary. I mean, rushed a rush Kiri that could hit their kunai.
Mhm.
I've seen out of all the support and like getting play of the game isn't everything, but out of all the support, I've seen more Kiri plays of the game than anyone else.
honestly, yeah,
Because she just has the potential to pop off like that. Like Alari, which we'll talk about a little later, has that potential as well. But not a lot of like a lot of the support also are very strong, but
hmm,
it's not 5King. But I've seen her get play the game by getting 3 or 4 kills just by
yeah,
kunai. I mean, even more recently, like I haven't been playing support as much, but even more recently, I got play the game off of 4King with kunai, and I didn't even feel like I did very well. I just so happened to hit heads,
right,
and they just died because kunai.
yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, there's so much to unpack with Kiri.
There is so much to
Wait,
talk about with Curie.
and we never even talked about her wall climb, her ability to just instantly take height for
Yeah,
free over and over, no cooldown.
yep, yep.
Like, okay, yeah, she needed that. She needed that up with everything else. It's almost like she has 7 buttons. It feels like it's and she doesn't her healing's so consistent too because she doesn't have to reload it. Like the majority of the support cast either doesn't have burst healing or it's limited. If they do, she just has a lot of
Hmm.
healing always.
Yeah.
And when she has burst healing, I think it's the best burst healing in the game now. Right?
Uh,
I don't think anybody bursts harder than she does.
if you really want to talk about burst healing, I think Iari can definitely take that. Vap as well can also do insane burst healing with his shift.
Sure,
But
I agree. I agree.
her, yeah,
But
she's still
comparing her to
very strong.
Alari, it's hers is AoE, and she can hit herself with it. You know, Alari can't hit herself with that. I mean, she has her pylon, right? But
Right, but
yeah, Gary.
and with burst healing and burst damage just being so strong right now,
All right.
like,
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean that's what the devs were
mhm.
talking about is trying to tone that back, which will be very interesting to see how they
I
implement it
cannot wait for that. Yeah,
without ruining the game, without breaking numbers. All right, Zenyatta. Um,
I think I would.
nah, that's a joke. I'd put him here. I'd put him there. Uh,
I think he's all right.
I've seen a Zen do some crazy stuff that Zen should not have been able to get away with. Discord Orb is also very oppressive if he
Hmm.
can keep up the LOS.
I think it's kind of
Trans
the
can,
same situation as like Mercy, where there's just better supports.
yeah. I mean, but the only reason why I want to put him low B and not in C with Mercy is because I feel like 9 times out of 10, Zenyatta is going to get more value than she does. Zenyatta isn't dependent on a particular DPS being on
Right.
his team to get value. You know?
Yeah.
So I'd put him lower than every other support, but I put him above Mercy. So I'd put him low B.
You know, that's fair.
And I feel like trans can do some things sometimes, but again, anti just says no. You
Yeah.
know, like, or a lot of the time he could just wait. It's like, all right, well, you're down a guy basically. I can't kill you, but you also can't kill me, so let's just stand here till
Hmm.
trans runs out. So, yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, he can get a lot of value, but I've just, like you said, there's just better options.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the support ults I'd take over trans.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I
Uh,
think Trans and Beat kind of just fell off hard at the start of Overwatch 2.
I agree. I mean, I didn't play Overwatch 1, but I've seen a lot of gameplay.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think that's all there is really to talk about Zen. And it hits
Yeah.
some nice right clicks sometimes. Kick.
Oh, kick.
I've played a ranked game where Zenyatta spawn camped and did it performed well, and that was ridiculous. But like that's the dime a dozen. So
I'm not gonna lie, the kick kind of makes me want to put him above Lucio just for having the better boop.
you know what? You're right. He does have a better boop, and it's not on a cooldown. You
Hmm.
remember April Fool's Zenyatta?
He could fly.
that
Yeah,
was
that was a
that was
great time.
nutty. That was so Reinhardt too. Yikes. That's what Reinhardt needs to actually get by.
Yeah, that'll make Reinhardt better. Surely.
Surely. Moves him up to C. Alright. Moira. Um
Moira.
ha
Moira is a very solid pick.
I feel like her coalesce change was very good because there was a
Coalescence
lot.
is a really good ultimate,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's very strong offensively
It is
and
a
defensively.
fantastic engagement tool.
Yeah, it's very, very good. There's never like a bad time because like some other alts is like, why are you alting when the team's about to die? Like even in the
Hmm.
support cast, but her ult is just very clutch. Whole team's low, coalesce, boom, they're full.
Hmm.
Like it's honestly just better trans.
I agree with that. I do think it is just better trans.
And she has one of the best escape tools out of all the support. I feel like the only other support that can escape better is Kiri.
Yep.
And like there is a skill ceiling to her, like for like playing her like at the top levels of play. But I mean her it doesn't require a lot of strong mechanics to play her.
Yeah, I like the skill floor for her is it's pretty low to get value out of her.
Yeah, like it's easy to learn, hard to master, I guess, is the best way to put her. Like very
Yeah,
easy to learn, and then
kind of similar to Mercy in that way.
yeah, fair. I agree. I agree.
Here they come, the swarm.
The swarm. The mob. It's like, oh, no, cut that out. Cut that out. All right. Yeah, I don't think there isn't really much else to say on her. Uh, I feel like her recent change to her damage orb as well helped her a lot with keeping up her,
Hmm.
with being able to get damage when she needed it, but being able to fill up her meter more often.
Yeah.
And other than Baptiste, in my opinion, she has the best like AoE team healing in the game.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And she has very strong burst
It is
healing.
very hard to beat her AoE healing in
Yeah.
that regard.
And she has a lot of AoE damage. Like she puts up numbers is what she does. She puts up a lot
Hmm.
of numbers in both damage and healing. So
Which is a blessing and a curse, because then you get like the Moiras who are like, why do I have more damage than my DPS
it's like
hero?
yeah,
Like,
but it's
it's
all
like, well, you're throwing
yeah.
orbs at the team and they're just healing it up. It's not
Yeah.
valuable damage.
Exactly. It's just a little bit of damage to everyone. It's like, wow, I
Hmm.
have more elims than the DPS. It's like, yeah, it's
Like,
because you
oh,
did
your
10
orb did
damage
one
to
tick of
everyone.
damage. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You did 10 damage to the whole team, and then our Genji Raw Blade 5K'd, and you got the elim for all of that. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh, you did
But
one
she
blast
does
of
still have
heal.
very good, like, dueling potential.
Yeah, she is very. And
She's
speaking of
very hard to
which,
kill in a 1v1.
for picks versus like flyers who are their own kind of thing, I feel like there are very few support that can kind of help do something about it, and she's one of them because it's like she doesn't do a lot of damage to help get through, but she's annoying, and like the Pharah kind of has to turn and deal with her, and the Moira can just be like, all right,
Right.
I'm out, I guess I'm gonna leave, and just fades away
Yeah.
back to whatever she was doing. Like she is one of the and in a dive dominated season, she's one of the best support for surviving dive.
Hmm. That's very true.
So yeah.
Yep.
All right. Baptiste.
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 In my opinion, just kind of a better Moira.
Yeah. In my opinion, uh,
I Yeah.
lamps. Lamp is
Lamps.
lamp.
Yep.
Lamps.
Invincibility is always gonna be strong.
It's very, very, very good. I don't know how many times I've seen an alt or like I so many times I've seen lamp happen. I'm like, well, there goes all the value you just got, I guess. GG's. Like, and Paul's, he has his jump. He's hit scan. He does good
Hmm.
damage. I mean, they recently nerfed his ammo, so he doesn't have as much uptime. But when it's up, I mean,
But it's
he's
still,
one of the best dueling characters in the whole game.
yeah,
His
absolutely.
AoE heals are strong.
His
He's
burst
basically
healing.
hit scan
Yeah.
Moira.
Yeah.
I mean, everything we just talked about why Moira is good. Baptiste is that and is hit scan. So, and like you and I have personally talked about it before, but Baptiste having 17 life bars. Like, oh, you almost killed the Baptiste lamp, and he jumps, and his support passive kicks in. All right, I broke the lamp back, and he pulsed, and he jumped again. Okay. All
Yeah.
right, here comes the Kiri, and he's Suzu'd. Okay. you know,
Yeah. He could truly just live
he can just
for so
prolong his
long.
depth for so long, and if
Hmm.
this other support hasn't come to bail him out at that point, I mean,
You've probably lost to the
he
1v1 at that
probably,
point.
yeah, I mean,
You've probably gotten domed.
yeah. So, yeah, I don't think there's much else to like I said, amplification
Hmm.
matrix is really strong, especially with a lot of our roster that we have here that's at the top
Right.
levels. I mean, have you ever seen an overclocked soldier that can hit her shots through amplification matrix? That is terrifying.
Yep.
That is terrifying. Bastion, like, there's so much. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Life waiver.
Lifeweaver.
Um,
Lifeweaver. I
I
would probably throw him in like A.
I was going to say high B or low A.
Yeah, I would
I
say like low A.
I think Moira's better than him just because I feel like he's another one of those support that's just so hard to kill. It's like you're chasing him, he has the extra hit points, he does his
Hmm.
little dash, gets his heal, his passive kicks in, his shield's regenning,
Hmm.
you get him low again, he paddles, he jumps away
Yep.
again, he
Yep.
life grips somebody in to come and save him. You know what I'm saying? And life grip, speaking of which, is I think one of the better support cooldowns in the game right now solely
I think.
because it saves you out of ults that other cooldowns won't.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Suzu is the only one that beats it by itself.
Yes, that is very fair.
And
I've heard it described as like better Mercy res because you're preemptively stopping the death.
preemptively rezzing, yeah. So they just
Hmm.
never die. So you deny ult charge to the enemy team and effectively did the same thing.
Yep.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Now that honestly, every time we bring up another support, man, I hate to say it, but like there is, our excuse to why Cass and why Widow were down where they are is because there's just better options. Why would you play them? The more we talk
Hmm.
about it, the more Mercy feels like that. There's just better options.
I Yeah, but you can still like get away with playing like a good Mercy.
That's fair.
Like damage boost is still very
Damage boost is
good
still,
and very situational.
fair. Because Farah and Soldierin exist, she
R and
can stay
Sojourn,
here.
R and S,
She
Mercy
she
goes up.
she can stay here, I suppose.
Hmm.
I really want to put her here though. If they didn't exist, I'll bop.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair.
But all right. Um.
Last but not least.
Oh right. The other thing about
Oh, that's right. We still are talking about Life Weaver.
yeah. The other thing, his ult. They did a lot to make it valuable, but I feel
Tree
like
is really
part
good.
tree is really good. But if you look at who's up high here, I mean, there are a lot of characters that are really good at bullying
Who
tree
can
out of
just melt the
existence.
tree?
Yeah. Oh, nice overhealth and healing you have. Gone. Oh, tree? Gone, gone,
Hmm.
gone, gone, gone. There's so much raw damage potential here. I mean, yeah. But tree is still good, but it can die, is the problem.
Right.
I mean, at least it dedicates resources and times. Like, tree can still be clutch, because it forces
Hmm.
them to focus on that instead of whatever else they were doing, I
It
guess.
gives your team time to stabilize
Right,
and
exactly. It's a very good
yeah.
stabilizing tool, but it's not used very well for anything other than stabilizing. And I've
Yeah.
seen many times a Lifeweaver tree to try to save somebody that was low, but the pulse just didn't hit them fast enough.
Right.
I've seen that a lot where I've seen beat in the same situation and it actually saved them.
Hmm.
But I still think it's better than beat the majority of the time.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright, Alari.
Yari.
Yeah, I mean,
That's another, yeah.
it's another S. That's she she's hit scan she's hit scan Kiri. She's hit scan Kiri. Every way you play Kiri, you play Alari the same way, except she's hit scan. And hit scan's going to be better than projectile when it's the same damage output.
Oh, that's fair.
And
Highest just raw burst healing in the game with that, what, like 100 per second healing beam.
yeah,
I think it was 120. I can't remember if they nerfed it down, what the number they nerfed it down to, but
yeah, true.
no, very strong character, just being able to do
Yeah.
that damage, having that extra offensive capability.
She her ult is very strong. The only thing stopping it from being the best support ult in the game, in my opinion, is Suzu.
Suzu?
It's Suzu again. We keep bringing it up. Suzu, Suzu, Suzu. Like, I feel like if Suzu didn't exist, it would be the best support ult easily. I've
Hmm.
seen Alari's 4 and 5k in high tier lobbies with that ult.
I mean, yeah,
I mean, you just hit a headshot and it procs and you can just dominate with it. It's very, very strong.
especially if your team like takes advantage of having like multiple people hit by it and actually pushes into that.
Yeah.
Like you get so much space out of it, even if you don't get any kills, because
And
they have to back up.
a team that positions themselves in a way to protect her pylon is just so much consistent healing. And even
Hmm.
like a Lari taking a flank with especially with a partner of some kind, like Soldier for instance, like we were talking about that before, with her
Hmm.
pylon set up, it's just so hard to kill the Alari. It's so
Yeah.
hard. She has so much and I mean, She just has a better boop than Lucio. I hate to say it. They gave her a better boop than Lucio has, and that's like his
Lucio
thing.
Lucio has the worst boop in the game. Like
It's
that's
so
just true.
sad. It's so sad. Like, it's just very hard to kill an. You know how many times I've dove in Alari and just had her boop and while falling through the air just head tap me? Like,
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like, a good Alari is a menace. Like,
Yeah.
she's like the DPS of support. Not that, not that she doesn't heal or do a good job at it or support, but I mean, she gets a lot of numbers. A lot of numbers.
She does.
And the two
And
tap
she's
head.
good into like most team compositions.
Yeah.
Like
She's
people
another like
very rarely complain about having an Ayari on
I
your
was
team.
just about to say that Kiri's like that character that no matter what, you're like, oh yeah, I'm fine with having
Hmm.
the Kiri. Alari's also that. Alari's just
Yeah.
like always good. Because, and yeah, she's just so good. There's not a part of her kit that's weak. And she doesn't really
Yeah.
struggle against anything. Like Ana struggles against dive, she doesn't. She just
No,
shoots it in
she
the
has
head and
her
it
shift
dies.
to get out
Yeah, and
as
she just
well.
boops away. Like,
Hmm.
and Hana's the sniper. Ana takes 3 shots to kill most characters, if not 4, depending
Hmm.
on like the type of squishy. Alari's 2-tap to almost everyone. And
Yeah.
if not, it's a 3-tap. Like, it's so good. She's so strong. She's very, very strong. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean that's about that.
yeah. So looking at the list now with everybody placed, is there anybody you would
Anything you
move
want
at
to
this
move?
point? Um, I'm kind of looking at the roster over right now. Um, ah, I
Say there might be
almost
some things like I'd move around inside of the tiers, but
right.
nothing like.
Yeah, I don't think I'd switch anything tiers. I'd shift some of them around for sure inside of the tier itself.
But that's too much work.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of micromanaging for little value on decision
Yeah.
making. Um, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this.
Yeah.
I think this gets the stamp of approval here.
Yep. So maybe throw like an extra tier down there for Melga. Just can't rank it. Can't
Yeah,
rank him.
can't rank them. Yeah, that's fair. Let's see. Add row below, like a pink for some or something. Oh no, that's changing that one. Oh, my bad. Then do add row below. And we'll just
There
do
you go.
like NA, not applicable.
Yeah. Not enough information.
Yep. I'm very satisfied with this. I
Yeah.
think I almost what I was thinking about it. The only one I thought about actually moving it here, um, was Sigma and then Farah, and I almost wanted to move them both into A.
Okay. Yeah,
But
I can see that argument.
just because Sigma is very consistently good, and the only thing again holding me back is the dive dominated
Mm-hmm.
thing for him, and also like, because Farah without Mercy is not very good most of the time. Like, yes, you can
Yeah,
get value sometimes, but like, at that point, you could probably just play Echo. Probably do better. I feel like
that's
Farah
true.
without the Mercy pocket or somebody else kind of, you know, on her isn't, she begins to struggle a lot.
Yeah,
Like
I think just the biggest thing is you very rarely see a Pharah without a Mercy pocket.
that's true, and that's why we're talking about her with the Mercy
Hmm.
pocket. Like I think it is Flats that said something like some because he was talking about like Farah being really good. I think Gyanza got brought up or something, and then
Yes.
somebody had said something about like, oh, he's only that good because of the Mercy pocket or whatever, and he's like, that's how you play the character. There's a
Hmm.
reason why Far Mercy is something that you hear a lot. It's just kind of how you play Farah at the higher tiers of
Yeah.
gameplay. If Mercy didn't exist, far Yanza probably wouldn't be where he is. You know, like
Yeah. You mean like top 20 on like the European leaderboard?
exactly. He probably wouldn't. He might still be top 500 because he's really really good, but he wouldn't be
Just to be clear, by
consistently at
top
the top.
20, I mean he had all top 20
Yeah,
spots
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with Smurf accounts.
Yeah, exactly. All of them. Held all of them.
Hmm.
Because he's just absolutely goaded.
It just speaks to how strong a good Farah can be.
Yeah, exactly. Just so much value. So much. And like we said before, she's one of the, if not the only character that demands a response.
Hmm.
Like a good Farah, it demands you to do something about it. Like I feel like the only other character that does that is Widow, and Widow is not good right now.
Right.
The only other character that demands you to do something about it, if they're good, is Widow, and she just ain't there right now. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, any closing statements?
Um, I think we've built a list of all time.
I think this is the list. This is
I think it's just a list of all time, you know?
no. I think it's
Certainly is one of them.
it is a list, and it is tiered with sections on it. Um, yeah, I think yeah, I'm satisfied with this. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this will do, Buckaroo.